Hello and welcome to the At Home Show. It's Tyler here, doing my best, subbing in for Josh and David. But not for long though, because I've got the best of winter edition queued up. The green room suffered a power failure earlier this week, and it won't be fixed until next week. So, I've queued up this episode to get us through the weekend. If you have any home and garden questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments. We'll do our best to answer them throughout the week, or even address them on the show next week. So from myself, Josh, and David, Cary, and Austin, we wish you a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.
Life is full of questions. That's just the nature of it. Mm-hmm. And you don't want to go through life without resolution and having those questions answered. And that's
1080p.
That's really what we're all about here, Josh. We're here to answer life's questions. And occasionally it has to do with landscaping and home improvement.
Yeah, you gotta learn to mute. You gotta mute the TV, guys.
Gotta mute the TV.
That's on Tyler. He's got the remote.
That's
My
okay.
bad.
That's all right. Everything's great.
Okay, we all get a bad one on that one every now and then.
You often hear me refer to my home as the proving grounds.
I often hear you say often.
Often?
Yeah.
How often do you hear that?
I hear you say often.
Often.
The T's silent, by the way. I'm just me.
It's often.
It's often, Josh. Yeah. But
How do
go
you
ahead.
spell Monday?
You don't.
You've heard me use the word mown grass too.
Mown
I think
grass.
you spell it MOAN. I think that's the way you spell it.
MOWN. Mown.
Okay.
Moan. That's not a real
You've heard
word.
me say wilt, haven't you? Okay. I make up my own language. Ginormous was one of ours. It was also a Cary.
Well, ginormous is a curious.
That was a Cary kid that came up with that one. What we have up here, and again, as I often refer to the home as the proving grounds, I like to consider some of the products that I've got as a service, a customer service where I'm going to buy what is going to be available to the general public just to see, because I'm going to use this thing.
This is a product that's made by Miracle Grow, it looks to me like. As I look closer
it's a
to
Miracle Grow dual chamber composting bin that you're going to make your own compost.
So I guess
I'm going green, man.
They shipped it to you in a great big box. You just opened it up and there it looked just like that,
One would
right?
think that might be the way that it would come. Now, you would, and you're assuming that there would be some assembly if you're going to be ordering this off.
Oh, yeah,
of
you had
the
to put
internet.
the legs on it at least, right?
Yeah, you'd think so. But when the delivery driver shows up and he has a flat carton,
That is what we call a clue.
And I thought, well, now if you look at this as you see it visually displayed here, you would think that, okay, I'm going to have
got sliding
3
doors.
boxes, maybe 4, but I mean, you're going to have 2 big boxes, 1 big box, somewhere.
One flat box.
1 flat carton.
But of course they had detailed instructions in there.
Ladies and gentlemen, no printed instructions inside. Now, there was a QR code in the nice little note that they want to save a tree, but there are certain things, and that's there's
Could have printed it
validity.
on the inside of the cardboard.
They could have done that. Okay, we can maybe put it on with green ink, and we could have shredded these things and then used it as a compost material as well inside there. So we're all returning it. That's not the case. Now, I've been working on this on and off for almost 3 days, and we're getting close.
Oh, yeah, you're still not done?
You got any? Any progress photographs for us?
We are 97% to this point right here.
You know what your problem is, right?
What is my problem, Michael?
You bought a Scott's product.
No. I have several Scott's things. I have the drop spreader. I have their broadcast spreader. I've had several.
Well,
I'm not. That's not what I'm saying.
And to be fair, now, calling anything in this day and time a certain product brand is really a misnomer because they just stick.
They stick a name on it.
They put a sticker on there. So, Miracle Grow does not have a composter factory.
There is not a blue component anywhere on this thing. This is a black and white. I had to resort to the old-fashioned way.
I guarantee you
of
can
printing.
find them exactly like that has some other brand on it.
Probably.
Oh, I'm sure you could.
Probably.
But the point being is You don't have the instructions on it, so now you're having to.
I do have the instructions now, but I was
now.
forced to print them. And
so no tree was saved.
no
then.
tree was saved at the end because
But they didn't.
They shifted the guilt to Josh.
Exactly.
It's all on me.
They sleep better knowing that
think
they
that-
didn't
and
kill a
again,
tree.
It's a hit job.
with the research that I did, I'm very, because you can start two different versions. You can have one working, and then you can have some things going on. You can have some that's ready, and then another batch. Because this is going to take when it gets warm, we're probably looking at 40, 50 days from the time you start it until you get it really going, depending upon
when it gets warm, it doesn't take nearly as long. And of course, the secret to
Good
having
compost.
success in compost, you got to have the right materials going in.
stuff.
You also have to have a constant is a really available supply of air.
and there are plenty of slots in this, and they're
Here
not
here at the Earth Mix facilities, we use a machine that turns material, and we do that a couple times a week.
I don't have one of those machines.
Well,
David.
no, you will have, because
Okay.
that's what this does. Is by
Right.
tumbling it, you introduce that air into it. Because when it goes anaerobic, which means
And I got the additive.
Anaerobic means that it's not getting air.
Oh, okay.
So-
But yeah, it'll get gunky. But in the research, there are barrel types. There are all kinds of different shapes and sizes. I thought this one was gonna. I read somewhere that the geometric shape, as you flipping things, it will actually help, and it's not just going to slide around on the inside of the barrel.
It does create angles all the way around.
Needless to say, we will be watching this as we go along, ladies and gentlemen, because there's a problem with the axle design. I have a feeling. Okay, because we'll see.
It's not made of wood, is it?
No.
Because you don't want your axle composting along the process.
No. But very few screws in it. As a matter of fact, there are about 8 in this whole.
So you just basically pop it together.
The little clip that you see on the front, that's what holds the individual panels together. So there's going to be a lot of air inside
I'll
it.
tell you,
and-
now composting is a great thing for anybody to do. The biggest thing that works against composting at this time of year is temperature.
Okay.
And
Tyler, you can go back to the regular.
Even the when we're composting on a slab
when
the
it's
Earth
10
Mix
degrees
facility,
outside, you're not going to.
you're not going to get a lot. And so what you have to do is you have to allow a lot more time.
Yes,
It takes quite a lot longer.
And this will be a neat thing to have. And again, it's a
Batches
toy.
of compost that can be ready in 2 weeks in the summertime can take a month this time of year.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
just the way that is.
So we will be watching this. I think it's going to do what it says it's supposed to do without any
There's
problem.
no reason that it won't. It's not really about the shape of the composting. It's about getting the materials in there, turning it on a couple times a week, keeping enough air to it so that it can properly fixate the nitrogen that it needs to be able to do, and it'll break down.
But be
and you'll
advised.
have really good compost coming.
Be
as a result
advised,
of it.
it's going to take you at more than 2 hands to do this as well, because when you're trying to put those little clips,
Well, and it's also fairly challenging to get the compost out of it cleanly. I know you've got doors
hence
on
the-
it,
but
and
those
you
doors
can
will
go to the
complete-
bottom position. You're going to probably
Yeah.
need to invest in some kind of a shallow tub to catch it.
I got your tub. I got the tub.
All right.
I got the tub.
We'll make sure. One of the things that people need to be mindful of is that, with those kinds of conditions that are certainly going to be getting bad quickly, you need to have major preparations in advance so that you're not out going, what do we do? What do we do? I'm not good with that feeling. I like to know, okay, I've got my little generator over here. I know how I'm going to set it up, because it can't be where you're getting, you don't want a generator in the house. You also want anything else that's generating noxious fumes like
Charcoal.
You don't want to do that, and even things that you wouldn't normally run. Things like
Lanterns.
space heaters, things that you're not accustomed to using. You don't want to leave those running while you're sleeping.
Now, go ahead. Finish with you.
No.
I was going to say, this is also the point in time when this is why you brag about having a gas fireplace.
Yeah,
all year.
Yeah, well, I do have one of those, and I have much to my wife's chagrin, she does not like it because she doesn't like the way it looks. But upstairs, I have a gas blue flame heater that is thermostatically controlled that requires no electricity to run.
Like a wall heater almost.
It's a wall heater that you can turn on, and if with no power at all, you can still have heat upstairs. So we can go upstairs and still have heat.
David, if you turn the heat on downstairs, doesn't that go upstairs?
Well, if you don't have electricity, you don't have heat. Even
but if you have the gas logs, you turn the gas logs on downstairs, the heat will tend to rise to a certain degree to the upstairs.
In the
area.
room that it's in, it certainly will. But you have moved it off 2 rooms, makes it pretty tough. It's a lot easier to have it. Makes it a little easier to have it close at hand. Now, I'm the kind of guy who has made provisions to have enough power to be able to run fans on my gas furnaces. A gas furnace does not heat without electricity, even though it's gas. That's the primary fuel source for the heat. Gas does not run the fan that moves the air
It won't
around.
circulate the air.
It won't even turn on without electricity because there's no microvoltage there to be able to tell the relay sensor to turn the fan on that can't turn on because there's no power there. So your systems will circumvent that if you don't have a way to get power to your central furnace. So that's one of the things that you need to keep in mind. A lot of folks will have a small generator, and I actually have a whole house generator that I have yet to ever get working to my satisfaction. So I'm using a small one that I have, a little 3,000 watt with a long heavy duty extension cord to run the critical things: refrigerator and internet,
freezers,
the internet,
and the freezer, okay,
and the television.
Well, the freezer, as long as you don't open it, and particularly in cold weather, nothing's going to thaw. Just leave it closed and don't be opening.
Put it outside on the porch.
The moral of the story is this kind of weather happens at least every 2 to 3 years around here, if not more often, but at least every 2 to 3 years. So it always pays. You don't want to be caught standing there going, "How am I going to heat my house? How am I going to cook my food? How am I going to do anything like that?"
Right. If you are a camper, a backpacker type person, then you're probably already set because you have the cook stove, you have all the accoutrements.
Gas grills will function.
A charcoal
the colder
grill.
the propane is.
Yep.
A charcoal grill will be just fine. I got a Weber, and you can do all kinds of stuff on that thing. You can fry stuff, bake stuff, everything.
Yeah, you just put a skillet directly onto the griddle, and you have a cook surface.
Now, you might be a bit cold cooking it.
Well, yeah. Well, but it creates memories that the family can enjoy for years to come. Kind of go back to where we started today, talking about what we need to do to get ready for that. We'll always hear about some folks who have made some bad decisions with respect to things that they're not familiar with using normally. Running a generator, running a generator in an attached garage with the outside doors closed, and or running other heaters that are not designed for indoor use in an indoor environment. Whenever a flame is burning, it does so by using the oxygen that is in that room. And even these heaters that are, quote, vent-free, those can be used safely while you're awake, but you don't want to ever use those while you're sleeping, or as Josh mentioned earlier in the program, you might continue to sleep.
Yep.
So you got to be really careful about that, and the lack of familiarity and
watch your cords. Any blankets around electric space heaters, anything like, you don't want to have any combustible substance around. That's where I would say probably more house fires are started, with these little exposed heating element type of things that have been down in the basement that you haven't needed for 15, 18 years.
Let's say you're talking about you're using a little small portable generator, and you're going to run a refrigerator, and maybe you want to be able to see your TV and have internet, some very basic things, so that you can maybe, because you may have a gas stove and you're not worried about that. One thing you want to make sure is that the cord that's coming from the generator and running into the house is heavy enough. You don't want to buy one of these $10 16 gauge extension cords. That's not heavy enough. From the grocery
store or the
go to the home center and get one that's at least a 12 gauge is what I would recommend. You or heavier, 10 gauges it would be.
And the longer you run, now the rule here, folks, is when you think about the longer the run of the cord, the bigger the diameter of the cord needs to be.
Right, because what's happening is that causes your voltage to drop on the longer the run is. And when your voltage drops, and this may be just glazing over at this point, but when your voltage drops, your amperage goes up. And when the amperage draw goes up, that means resistance is happening. That means the wire starts getting warm. And if you can burn
your motor up too.
Yes, you can burn. You do all manner of damage.
There's one more plant I did want to talk about over here, which are the Hellebores, which we got in at Bates Nursery. We got 500 in.
You only got 500?
We only 500. I think they came in on Thursday. They are gorgeous, as you can see. I have some on Austin's side and mine as well. So the greenhouse in the back is completely full of hellebore right now.
It is hellebore season here. That's why we got 500 of them at a time, because they're popular right now. That's an evergreen perennial. David earlier was talking about plants that go dormant, and most all perennials go dormant to the dirt. All you see right now is just a pot full of dirt. With hellebore, you don't see that. You see evergreen foliage that stays close to the ground. It's a great little ground cover that blooms this time of year, which I can't think of hardly any other plant that blooms this time of year. I went and did a little side job the other day, and I saw at a customer's house they had a bunch of these planted, and they were in full show. So excellent little ground cover plant. We've got plenty of them, plenty of colors. They're starting to come out with some really cool ones. So come on out and get some hellebore if you need some little ground covers below, say a shade tree. These are more shade-loving plants. They do not really want a full sun environment. So morning sun's okay, but let's avoid that afternoon sun exposure. But an excellent little evergreen ground cover that blooms right now.
I'm helping friend watch his house. They're out of town, and happened to be over there yesterday, and you walk around and all of a sudden you see a flower in the middle of January or the end of January. It'll surprise you, folks. I mean, absolutely.
Josh,
gorgeous.
exactly what do you do when you help somebody watch their house?
I'm watching their house, man.
You just walk around and go, okay, I'm watching.
Making sure it's there.
He's looking.
Actually, I was moving the trash can for him. So, I mean, that's it is. You got to be neighborly. You know what I mean?
Another little brief comment about hellebores. There's nothing that can give a gardener more certain sign that spring is on the way when hellebores are in bloom. And as they've already shown you this morning, they're not just they used to be just a singular color. They were only white. Now there's just a whole rainbow of colors and varieties of textures and foliage.
Double blooms too.
Yes. So check all those out, and we're glad to. I know that Joy and Bridget and company have it, and Bridget. Thank you. You know what it is about Bridget's name? I always want to call her something else, and I go, no. It's not whatever that other name is. Somehow Bridget always sticks on me. But anyway, Joy and Bridget do a great job down there, and you need to go check it out. And on a day like today, to be inside makes shopping a little more pleasant. Sure. And speaking of which, we'll be open from 10 a.m. until 2 today. So check that out. Hey, let's talk for just a moment about how you get these things growing and how you keep them growing their very best. And that's by using Earth Mix garden products. We like to say success begins in the ground level. And certainly it does. When you're trying to prepare your soil to put these plants in the ground. Plants are not cheap. And if you're going to get good plants, you want them to have the very best growing environment in the soil. And you get that when you use Earth Mix garden products. Now, whether you're using Earth Mix Landscape for your landscaping plants, not coincidentally. That's for that purpose. Whether you're planting perennials or trees or shrubs, Earth Mix Landscape is a great choice. If you're looking at tropicals, which is Caroline is featured around the studio today, Proganics I is your clear choice. And the great thing about Proganics I, in addition to the fact that it is a very living soil, it has a lot of nutrition in there. It also has no peat, and with peat shortages, that's right. And peat is not a renewable resource.
Right.
Coconut coir, on the other hand, is, and it's readily available. So we bring that in. All Earth Mix products are devoid of peat moss. There's not a speck of peat moss in any of it. So, and that also, particularly in houseplants, Josh, is great for keeping those fungus gnats down because they're very problematic.
Gnats.
They are. They're problematic. So anyway, check out the full line of Earth Mix products over at earthmix.net. And while you're there, simply go up and click on the Find Earth Mix tab, and you'll see that in the top right corner. Click on that, and then a page will come up and show you all the pins of all the dealers all around Middle Tennessee, Kentucky, even up in Ohio and Indiana. Check those out at earthmix.net. And remember this, success in gardening begins at the ground level when you use Earth Mix garden products. And we appreciate you giving us a moment to talk about that and help you to do the very best with your gardening efforts.
What types of soil should I use to start my seeds?
For us here and for me, that I've always used is our product called Proganics I, which is
the best.
It is. It's our indoor potting mix that we use, and it's certainly great for plants that are already up. If you want to repot them or whatever, it's got nice drainage. It's great for that, but it is also very light and nice for seed starting. So every seed I've ever started.
The only cautionary statement I would have about using Proganics I is that because of the amount of, seedlings don't need a shot of high fertility when they're in that very juvenile state. So you might consider using sustain just for the germination process. A lot of people will.
What is that mix, David? Now, you've explained it in the past.
Sustain actually is not a mix at all.
Okay.
It is pure coconut coir.
Okay.
You could choose to mix some vermiculite or perlite in with it, but it wouldn't be required. Seedling pots and trays are going to be, by nature of what you're trying to grow, they should be very shallow. You have almost no root system to begin with, so you're going to use either very small pots to start those in, or use them in a seed tray that you transplant them into a larger one. So,
like an old cookie sheet or something like that.
That would be perfectly good. Now, what you want to be concerned about with a cookie sheet or something like that has no drainage in there is the tendency to overwater. You don't want that to happen because soggy roots will make them die off quickly.
Okay.
Hey, and another good tip is to save your seed tray. Save your flats from year to year.
Yes,
so I bought
wonderful for that.
Exactly, little 4-pack trays. I buy my petunias every year in 4 packs. You got to $19.99 to get you 48 plants, and that gives you a seed cell starting tray for 48 new seeds if you want. So save those seed trays. Now make sure you clean them every year. You don't want to over. Yucky stuff, coming back.
In addition to just washing them, take maybe like perhaps a 10%, maybe not even that high, a bleach solution to water. Once you've got them clean, and then soak them in that, where you can, that will then rinse them thoroughly, and then turn them upside down and allow them to dry. And once that has occurred, you've killed off all the pathogens, everything that's in there, and then they can safely be used the next time. That's not done normally on a commercial level simply because it's too labor intensive. But if you're just doing a tray or two, it's not a big deal for a homeowner.
Would vinegar work in that mix as well? I mean, would it be vinegar would work? I don't see any reason why it wouldn't.
I think vinegar is for much later, and that's like after harvest. Josh.
Well, I mean, if you had a good balsamic reduction, I mean, you wouldn't want to use the $18 stuff, but I mean, if you had some good old white vinegar left over from the canning process.
Yeah, if you're going to get rid of the diseases and those kinds of issues that could possibly be in that flat, you want to use a chlorine type of bleach once they have been cleaned of dirt the best you can, and that will get rid of those pathogens. Remember, rinse them good after you have
and dilute
solution.
it, and
then let them air out completely, and then they'll be tip-top shape, ready to go.
Yeah, and then whenever after you use those seed starting trays, if you're using the coconut coir, it's not going to give you much growing, after it's already germinated. It's not going to do much for keeping it going. So also save those bigger containers, things like this size. I got this little cactus here, but this little, 4-inch pot, it's good to save those too, because that's what you can put those seedlings into in some, say, Proganix I or Proganix O or any of our products that we sell here to transplant to. So, I know as a horticulturist, I've got a massive stack of pots and trays, and they're just
a ton.
Yeah, they're just collected over time. But whenever I need something or I'm ready to germinate something, that's where I can go to.
There you go. Okay. Mulch and watering aside, what does a newly planted tree need to thrive? Ooh. Well.
So she said mulch and what else did she say?
Watering.
Okay, so, we always recommend to amend with an earth mix product. Typically, garden or our landscape mix is what we recommend to plant with, and that's going to improve the no matter what soil you have, it's going to improve it, and it's going to add nutrients. It's going to inoculate the soil with mycorrhizae, which is going to help the uptake of those nutrients for the plant. And depending on, so the other thing would be to know what you're planting and know what it requires for sunlight. So, you don't want to put a gold dust tacuba out in the middle of the yard in the full sun.
No, doggone it. You don't ever want to do that.
No.
Okay.
You'll torture it to death.
Okay. Burn it up.
Yeah. And you don't want to put any kind of juniper in the deep shade.
Right.
Same thing. It's going to just slowly die.
Just torture it.
You're torturing it. Yes.
Okay.
That's sad.
So, so speaking of the stuff, the MRM or Miriam Mims, I can't. I use, every time I plant something new, I do amend the soil with some earth mix around it. Now, you take some of that soil that you dig out of the hole and mix it, if you want to, take some of that, get your wheelbarrow or a bucket, mix it up if you want to try to spread it out and move it out a little bit. And I dig a $10 hole. Dig the proper hole, do it the right way, and don't plant it, in most cases, too deep with the tree.
Yeah,
right?
that's another thing, too, is... well, I would say with trees and shrubs, it's just a good rule to plant. If you're going to do anything, plant just slightly higher, because the soil that is underneath might settle, and so it'll kind of sink just a little bit. You don't want to plant too deep, for sure. You don't want to pile soil up around the trunk or the
right.
The branches if it's a shrub, because that could rot the bark and the cambium layer around the plant, and therefore kill the tree. So.
Would really like if she's still, or Miriam, and we would assume it's Miriam. It would really help to know what kind of tree.
Correct.
I think too.
Correct. Yeah. But I think as a general rule, plant, make the soil level even, make sure that whatever it is, it's in the right location for light. And then if you're amending with either garden or landscape, after that, she's already got the watering part.
Let's talk about some potential hazards like deer and rabbits, and it's in areas of Middle Tennessee where a new tree would be vulnerable to them.
So right now, particularly in the fall, the bucks are quite active.
They're randy.
Now. They're looking for something.
They're getting yes.
So and they're trying to mark their territory, and they're trying to rub and scrubbing. And a lot of times they like a tree that's about 1 to 2 inch caliper that they can get kind of in between their horns there and kind of rub. And what happens is they'll either push it over, break it, or they'll just scrape all the bark off, which is deadly to a plant. So the best thing to do is I've found, if you are in an area that has a lot of deer, or you just see them a lot, is you have to get some of that wire fencing and some metal posts, and make you a circle, around it, kind of cage it in, and you want to make it where it's wide enough that the deer can't reach with their head, but you also don't want to make it too wide where they can just jump in. So you see what I'm saying? So it's got to be, kind of maybe a couple of feet away from the tree. And
so attractive, though. It sounds.
I mean, it's either that or just take your chances,
right?
Because they do make things like liquid fence, and I've heard of people having luck with Irish Spring soap. The thing is, their olfactory senses are so strong, they don't like really potent scents. Anything that smells a really strong smell, they don't like it. It's actually painful for them to smell something like that.
Wow.
So you can use the liquid fence. The only issue is that if you get a hard rain,
it goes away.
It will dilute it,
right?
Or just completely wash it away. So you got to reapply it.
And predator urines, I've heard that's available.
That's what liquid fence is. Yeah. It mimics coyote and wolf and other urines.
Let's kind of take the questioning towards Joy for just a moment. I know a couple of areas that are really that you're passionate about are the use of natives and also pollinators in the garden, and those are things that can greatly. Yeah, that and this looks amazing.
Oh
like
man,
Austin.
I'm sorry. Whoops. There we go.
There's Joy. Okay. But when we're talking about
no 5 o'clock
natives and pollinators in the landscape, Joy, kind of give us a brief overview of why it's important to include those elements in your landscape. It doesn't mean that your entire landscape needs to be there, but it's really good to have some of those elements in there.
Yeah, so native plants support our local ecosystem. They've evolved together for thousands of years. It can be as specific as one caterpillar can only eat one type of plant, like the Gulf fritillary can only eat passion flower. And they are still out and about. I saw caterpillars yesterday on some of the passion flower we have growing out behind the perennial area. But it's also the bird species that we have are our native berries are better for them, and seeds, specifically like 70% of our native berries ripen in the fall. And they are really high in fat content, whereas opposed to the invasive species and the non-natives that do produce berries, most of the content in those berries are carbohydrates. So our local birds, specifically the ones that are migrating, need that high fat content to make migration. So they're basically choosing the candy of the invasive species and dispersing them, as we talked about earlier,
right,
as opposed to the meat and potatoes that they need.
Now, what's you have a berry there to your left? What is that?
That is Calicarpa americana, or americana, beautyberry, American beautyberry. So that is, you see mockingbirds eating the berries off of that quite a bit. It has a natural mosquito repellent.
Really?
Mm-hmm. You can rub it all over yourself and hope to not have as many mosquitoes.
And then you can only have to reckon, is it the color or is it the scent that
it's a scent.
encourages them to stay away?
It does have a scent.
They do have a beautiful color, and that color does not transfer, I don't think, when you rub those on you, but they are the beautyberry name is very accurate, is that they create a striking contrast with the foliage, and there's really nothing else that gives that color at this time of year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I've also got perennials around. These are late season blooming perennials. We've got aster and helianthus, which is great. Solidago. Joe Pye weed is mostly done. There are some species of Joe Pye weed that are still going. And this is a little gem called turtlehead. Oh, sorry. Turtlehead.
There it is.
Chelone. That is more for the shade. Kind of likes wet feet, but it'll do fine with a little bit of drought conditions. And then we've got some coneflower that's still going. That is definitely a favorite for pollinators. And then that purple phlox, that's an early phlox, but sometimes they push out late into the fall too. Kind of you get 2 seasons out of those. And then there's a little squatty Vernonia, which some of them are already done in the season. Mm-hmm. That one's just about to push out, but that's just because it's a young plant.
No, the phlox is much more upright than what I think about phlox. I think about phlox being like almost like a ground cover.
Yeah, well, there's many species of phlox. There's Phlox paniculata, which is the garden phlox that can get up to 3 feet tall. Gina is a species or a naturally found cultivar of that's really great, attracts a lot of pollinators. That one is a hybrid. I think it's a natural hybrid that occurs. I can't remember what the 2 species are. Carolina, maybe. But the bumblebees are all over that plant right now out in the nursery.
Josh is thinking about the Phlox subulata or subvertella, which are the prostrate spring flowering types those are not a native, correct?
They are, but not to this region.
They are a native.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
I got you.
Much further south, I would think.
Yeah, I think you can find them in like the Appalachian Mountains, cooler conditions, but they do find here. But naturally, that's where you'd find them, and it's rare to find them.
Interesting.
Joy, I do have a great question on our Instagram that is right up your alley. What are some favorite native plants for curb appeal?
Curb appeal. Well, I guess depends on the time of season. Beautyberry is awesome as far as curb appeal. There was a house in Lachlan Springs that used to have a beautiful beautyberry just by the sidewalk, and I think that has dynamic curb appeal. Fall color, Itea, Fothergilla. I have a hard time with that, how to say that. Mm-hmm. Who else? Buttonbush. I think that has a lot of curb appeal.
I like that one.
I need to figure out when to completely clean out our raised beds, and when is the predominant or the best time to really start something like broccoli, cabbages, stuff like that.
3:30.
Well, it's coming up. If you were growing it from seed, you're really very close to the window where you would want to get that underway. So it's worth taking a minute to talk about, if you're buying those seeds, how to get the right conditions so that you can have a reasonable chance and expectation of not just germinating those seeds, but growing them early on so that we've all seen tomato plants is the most common one you see, but little seedlings that when they sprout and they get very spindly and they lay over. And what that is a sign of are plants that had 2 conditions that were not within the bounds what they should have been. Number one, the temperatures have been too high and the light conditions have been too low. So the operative words and then the thought process when you're germinating cool season vegetables, and all vegetables for that matter, if you're germinating from seed, is that you want them to have very bright light conditions, but you want the temperatures to be relatively cool. If you can keep the temperatures down into the 40s or in the 50s, they're going to do much better. And what that does is that produces a seedling that's very short and stocky and has a very
like Michael.
Big stem on it. So that way it will be able to stand up and do well in the transplanting process. It gives you something that you can handle a whole lot easier.
So what I'm hearing you say is, get a grow light, and if I put it in my downstairs,
I didn't hear him say that.
Let me finish. You always talking over everybody.
Yeah, I am.
You get on there, and I lost my train of thought. My basically the downstairs part of our basement, where our like the
you have
like
a basement
kitchen.
Upstairs.
Yes. Well, no, it's like we have the den, which is like heated and cooled by our normal stuff, but we have a it's almost like a
cooler area.
A cooler area, and it stays about 55, 50.
No, that's perfect. That's perfect. And the great thing about using LED lights for grow lights, which is really that is the best choice. And, just like if you look straight up, Michael, those that we've got there in the studio, you see those that have the spotlight on them, you can use those in relatively close proximity and still get a lot of light output without warming the air temperature. So you can, LEDs have really been a boon to indoor growing of plants. So whether you're growing tropicals and you just want to keep something nice and green to help purify the air in the home, or if you're like yourself contemplating doing the starting of seedlings, LED lights help a lot. Now, this one important bit of information, you don't need any light at all to germinate seed.
They just need moisture and sufficient temperature. So having it warmer during the germination phase is fine. A lot of people will simply put the seed out on a folded paper towel, fold it, and then open it up, and then moisten it, and then sprinkle the seed out on there, and then cover it back over, and then wet it again, and then put it on top of the refrigerator or in a tray on top of the water heater, somewhere where it stays warm. But you got to watch them carefully, because as soon as they start to germinate, they need to go to that cooler spot and become ready for the first transplanting. So I prefer to use that method and transplant them directly into a small growing container, and then transplant them again into either a larger container or directly into your garden area that you have at home.
Now, Michael, there's one thing you mentioned broccoli. Broccoli plants take some space. I mean, I bought
surprising,
3.
isn't it?
It's surprisingly, they're gorgeous little plant. I mean, it's got pretty foliage on them, I thought, but the amount of space that they take for the amount of food that you get, if you're working in a really small area, you might be better off doing something a little different. I mean, it was great broccoli.
Can you grow broccoli in like a separate container if you get like a big container or something?
Sure, you can.
I've got a 4x8 raised garden bed. So I mean, I've got other things I want to put in there, so I don't want
and
that's what happened to me.
As Josh is alluding to, it'll take up a lot more real estate than you initially expect. Now, if you can get them out there early, what can happen is you can have a chance to harvest and get most of it off. And by the time warm weather arrives and you're putting in warm season plants like tomatoes and peppers and those kinds of things, you'll be extracting those cool season plants out of there. So you'll gain the space back just simply due to the climatic conditions changing as we go through the springtime.
Let's talk about Base Nursery and Garden Center for a moment.
You okay?
Yeah, I'm all right. I get a little spacey at times. Apparently, let's talk about Base Nursery and Garden Center. This time of year, we are open on Saturdays, 10 until 2. So we've got a short day, but we try to be here during the nicest part of the day. And that will certainly be the case today. Come on out and see us. It doesn't matter if you're looking for tropicals like we've got all over the studio today, and Caroline and the others in the greenhouse area do such a wonderful job of getting those in and taking care of them. You know, we put out some beneficial lady beetles here a couple of weeks ago that really are doing a nice job of keeping everything clean without using chemicals. So that's a great thing. And also, if you're looking to get some things out in the garden, we do have an incredible selection of Hellebores that have come in. So check all those out. And of course, if you're planting either tropicals that you're going to step up to a larger containers, which I have it on pretty good source. We have containers for every description. You got to come check those out. And when you're going to be transplanting those, you're going to use Proganics I to get the very best results for your indoor plants that you're going to be stepping up. And of course, you can use Earth Mix Landscape for all of your Hellebores you might purchase, or any other of the trees and shrubs we have. By the way, we have all those on our indoor storage facility. So you can come in and shop in a comparatively mild environment. It won't be as chilly as it is outdoors. Fortunately, the temperatures are warming up quickly, and things are going to be a nice day today, even though it's going to be a little brisk starting out. So come on out and see us at Bates Nursery and Garden Center, where we're conveniently located 1 mile north of Briley Parkway at exit 19 on Whites Creek Pike. That's just minutes from Rivergate, Opry Mills, Nashville West, downtown Nashville. And this, I promise you, it is worth the drive no matter where you're coming from. Check out our website, basenursery.com, where, by the way, everything that we sell can be purchased online, and it's searchable 24/7, 365. You can either set that up for a curbside pickup, or you can set it up to be delivered directly to your home. You don't even have to make the trip out. Maybe you've got some things that are keeping you from getting out. That is the solution to that, so you can get out and work in the garden. Bates Nursery Garden Center, beautifying Nashville since 1932. We're very proud to have our 90th year of business here at Bates Nursery. So come on out and see us. And we appreciate you tuning in today and seeing what we have in store here at Bates Nursery.
Yeah, and folks, and I want to remind you, I come out here every week, so I know what's going on. The fact that you drive up, if you don't come by the nursery every once in a while, you notice in the summertime and in the spring and in the fall, it looks like a jungle. This time of the year, this time of year, they're protecting the plants. So, I mean, they've got caution tape. I don't know, it was a crime scene almost out there, but it's all just going on. Yeah. It's all just
utility work going on in the parking lot, and the great folks over at Nashville Electric Service, which there is a planned widening of Whites Creek Pike at some point in the future, and they being the ever vigilant folks, that's kind of the way it looks right now.
It's a little premature there, but I made a map of our winter greenhouse that they're talking about.
Now, and then you've got there are other display areas, again, all the indoor plants. And if you come down this way, there's all kinds of stuff around. So you got to go out there and you got to get inside to see what's going on. So,
yes, we do have a great selection of things. We just can't keep it outside this time of year. It needs a little bit of protection. But also you'll see that there's some big silver poles on a trailer, and they're getting ready to put those up next week. And we appreciate them coming in and doing that while it's winter and not springtime. So it would have been really troublesome if they tried to come in and do that while we're in the busy part of the spring. So thank you to NES and all the great folks over there for figuring out a way to get that done where that it's a minimal inconvenience to everybody.
And Austin's out there in the back where the trees are, the big B&Bs and some of the big trees out there. You need to come out there and take a walk out there too, because you can see what they look like in the winter. And I saw some red tips back there, I think so. And I mean, just absolutely gorgeous.
Let's take a walk back right now to House 1.
House 1.
Wow. Hey, looky there. Gosh, you walk really high. Man.
You have no idea.
That's Superman flying through there.
That's right. So in here, everything from the lot ends up inside this warehouse that aren't trees or perennials.
And that's where you had marked winter greenhouse on the other image. But look at all that stuff. It's all on racks, and it's all easy to get to. And that really makes for a great opportunity for Tyler and all the other great sales associates to be able to walk you around in there. And since we have completely redone that last year, the lighting is really great in there now. It was awful for the previous years. It just takes a while to get everything done. We've been fortunate to be in business for 90 years, but the downside to that is that everything starts aging, including the owner. So we have to keep working trying to maintain the facilities, and the owner's doing the best he can with the aging process. So,
and the fact that they're in that greenhouse doesn't mean that they can't go to your house and go into the ground, right? I mean, that's probably a great time to be planting.
That's the best point.
So they're protecting.
Austin, talk about that for a minute. Why is it okay? Why can we not have them outside, but yet you're talking about selling people shrubs and they're going to take them home, but putting them in the ground is what the difference actually is.
That's the biggest difference, being above the ground versus below the ground. So plants in pots tend to freeze, and which isn't necessarily the worst thing on earth. I mean, most of these plants, honestly, that we protect would actually probably be fine if we left them outside. We're just protecting them just because that's what we want to do. We want to make sure they're the best quality in the springtime. But especially, say, deciduous plants that don't have any leaves right now, excellent time to plant those. Go ahead and you can take them right from our store and get them home and put them right in the ground. Water them deeply right after you plant them, and then pretty much let them be until spring and watch them leaf out. And it's, especially for, like, say, spring flowering plants, it's just nice to go ahead and get them in. That way you can enjoy the show at your house rather than us seeing the show here at our store. So definitely a good time to be planting. If it's a little cold this morning, we recommend not necessarily planting when the ground is frozen. I'm not sure the ground is actually frozen right now, but the top couple inches are probably pretty hard, so it's not going to be very fun digging. But these temperatures are going to get up a little bit, like we talked
like
about
Tuesday.
earlier.
Yeah,
Tuesday. You're talking 62 degrees. I mean, that's Tennessee for you. So it's still an excellent time to be planting. Man, we've got your stuff. Tyler just did his drone shot through the whole thing. We've got a whole house 3 rows up. Both sides of the green, very large greenhouse. So
Yes.
we still have plants. It just doesn't look like it. So.
If these walls could talk, the restless.
Face the kitchen floor, stained carpet, frozen things in time. She asked to pour me coffee. I don't want to impose. I swear I saw your ghost. Nobody said your name, but everything's the same. Somehow. If these walls could talk, they'd say, I remember you. You can change the paint, but they still won't be new. Cracks along the pavement, scratches on your table. I know them all too well. Underneath the surface, doesn't make you nervous. These echoes all around. If these walls could talk, if these walls could talk. Came looking for a sign, whispers in the air, but I knew you weren't there. Told myself I'd be fine as I walked outside. I remembered every time, fireflies and dancing in the shadows. And I know that long after I go, these footprints are gonna fade, but some things just stay the same somehow. But if these walls could talk, they'd say, I remember you. You can change the paint, but they still won't be new. Cracks along the pavement, scratches on your table. I know them all too well. Underneath the surface, doesn't make you nervous. These echoes all around. If these walls could talk, if these walls could talk. Wherever you are now, you know it's not a home. The city that you left is living in your bones. Everything you want and knocking on your door, but you don't come back here no more. But if these walls could talk, they'd say, I remember you. Wherever you are, I hope you like the view. Cracks along the pavement, scratches on your table. I know them all too well. Underneath the surface, doesn't make you nervous. You know I'd never tell, but these walls would talk. If these walls could talk.
When you're stumbling through the darkness, feeling lost and all alone, when the world is on your shoulders and it's hard to carry on, when you're drowning in your pain and loneliness and you feel like giving up, Just remember this. Love is stronger than your fear. Faith is stronger than your doubt. Light is stronger than the darkness. Don't let your light go out. When you're beaten down and broken, or tangled up in your despair, when you're searching for an answer, you've tried everything but prayer. It's when you need the faith to get down on your knees. You'll find your miracle if only you believe. Love is stronger than your fear. Faith is stronger than your doubt. Light is stronger than the darkness. Don't let your light go out. It's hard to see heaven when you're staring at the ground. Lay your burden down, he'll turn it all around. 'Cause love is stronger than your fear. Faith is stronger than your doubt. Light is stronger than the darkness. Don't let your light go out. Don't let your light go out. What do you know? I made it through a song.
Yeah. All right. Very good, very good, very good, very good. Mr. Greg Hall.